Hello and welcome back. This is going to be the Micro Focus OES 2018 SP2 configuration after the base install. I will be installing eDirectory on OES 2018 SP2. So here we are at the boot screen. I'm going to just click on OES and let it boot. This will be booting into the desktop where we can do some configuration. Okay, and so I'm being prompted for my account, which is IT. And I'll be dropped into the default desktop. So probably one of the first things I would want to do is fix the resolution. So I will go to Applications, what we want is Display. There it is under Settings, Displays, click on the unknown display, pick a better resolution. I'll go down to something like this and apply it. That looks a lot better. Keep these changes. Alright, so now that I got a little bit more space, we're ready to do some configuration. In OES, just like SLES, your configuration is done through YAST. So one of the first things I would do is add YAST to the desktop. First time when you add it, you get a funny icon. But when you double click to open it, you just say trust and launch, and then the icon will show up. You'll need your root password. And this looks very familiar to anyone who's used SUSE, but you pretty much get your whole system configuration in YAST. One of the main things, OES services are down, oops, where are they? There we go, down at the bottom. So in OES, your friend for installing services is right here with the OES install and configuration. The other pieces in here are other services of OES. If you are installing OES into an existing eDirectory tree, you may need to use the OES schema tools, and that basically makes sure that eDirectory has newer objects for OES in the eDirectory tree. But this is the main one we usually go to, OES install and configuration. The installers looks very similar to the normal SUSE configuration, but it has this the OES custom scripts to install. There's a lot of services here. This OES Cloud storage is a new service in OES 2018. It lets you basically archive your bulk unused storage out to a cloud infrastructure, which can save you money. And or if you have already an object-oriented storage solution in your environment, you may be able to just leverage that. But this is a whole cloud suite for managing storage in the cloud. But we're not going to be working with that today. Right, today's episode is installing eDirectory. If I see anything else that's kind of interesting while I'm scrolling down here, I will. One other thing you'll see here there's a domain services for Windows. So OES can be your primary domain server if you're a Linux only environment or don't have a Windows Active Directory. But this also allows OES to participate in an Active Directory environment. So that's something that might be interested for you. I am going to just install one of the core services in OES, and that's the directory services, which is eDirectory. eDirectory pretty much holds all the configuration and user identities, servers, all your management of the OES systems are in eDirectory. So you pretty much can't use any of these other OES services unless you have eDirectory. So that's usually the first thing I would install. You could check more services here, but I think it's a little better just to do one at a time. Especially, if you are not installing a bunch of servers all the time, you might easily get confused with all these. Let's just do eDirectory. I hit accept. What we first see is the software being installed. And as you can see, installing eDirectory installs a lot of services beyond just eDirectory. There's a lot of supporting tools that eDirectory uses. And once it's installed, it allows you to go in and do some deep customization, which you normally do not have to do. So I'm going to go with the typical configuration and hit next. And now there's the configuration for my tree. So by default, as you can see, it is assuming you're going into an existing tree. So if you have an existing eDirectory tree that this server is going to participate into, you just have to enter your SLP server and time server information. Since I don't have a tree, we're going to start a new tree. This is going to be called my cloud. So my tree is just going to be a cloud of services. Usually this could be a core company name, and then you could break it up. This is not seen as much. You'll have an O and organization and organizational units under this. So I'm just going to call mine cloud. Then it wants to know where your administrator is going to be, and this is usually where your first server is going to be installed. So I'm going to do like admin, which is kind of tradition for the eDirectory administration. And one thing you see a little bit of legacy stuff is they're doing an organizational of Novell. That's because the OES technology originated in the Novell company, and Micro Focus had bought Novell and took over the OES services that Novell had. So I'm going to make my organization called Home, because that's where I'm working from right now. And then the admin will need a password. You could make this the same as the root of your server, but this is really your global admin for the tree. So you would probably want to use a unique password. Once your password's installed, it asks you where you want your server installed, and see, it did take the same organizational unit that I used during my description of where I want my admin. So that's fine. I want my server to show up in home also. And if I wanted it to go somewhere else, like I could do OU equals servers. So the server would be under its own OU servers. That's fine. I'll do that. But again, here's another default option. It allows you to change if you want to. If you know, like if you're a big eDirectory customizer and don't use this directory, you have the ability to change it, and I'm leaving the default. I don't have internet access for this server, so I don't know if it will take time, but I'll try it there and just see. It'll probably complain that it can't talk to a time server, so we'll see. In a eDirectory tree, time is very important. It's same with Microsoft Active Directory. It's when they're syncing, timestamps are used so you know what data is the newest, especially when there might be conflicting updates happening at the same time. We are not doing this over. Yep. There's no SLP because there's no other servers on here. So first thing it's going to do is make sure that you're not trying to create a new tree with the same name as an existing tree. So it did a quick little scan. And this part of the configuration screen is kind of confusing the first time you see it, because it looks like this is just telling you, okay, this is what's going to happen. But you may need to go in here and answer some questions on the service. So we already answered eDirectory's configuration. So as you see, the stuff that we selected or entered is here, plus some defaults. If I needed to change any of these, like if I didn't want to use port 8028, I have to go back in and click on eDirectory, and then I can see the configuration settings. Here's an option that was selected, Linux user management. So this allows you to use eDirectory users in Linux. So it gives them Linux unique ID numbers, and services can be configured. As you see, there's some no's here and all that. Well, I want my eDirectory accounts to be able to log into Linux. So I click on user management and I get the menu to make changes. So first it's saying things that are important. It's like your Unix config context should be at the organizational unit. My organization is called home, so this is a good location for it, because when servers do a search, they usually search up the tree, and my servers are under servers, then they would look in home, so that's good. And then I'm going to use the default admin group for this name, and then I'm going to tell it to use this proxy server. So you could put in a certain user that's basically has the rights for this service logging into eDirectory. OES servers have a common proxy for all their services, so you're not managing a bunch of accounts for each service. So I checked that. And I'll leave those defaults. I'll go next. So it's going to look at itself for login, and if you had more servers, you could select more as failover, because you want redundancy. If you're providing login services. You want the services to look at more than one server, but I don't have another server yet, so I can't add anymore. Then it's saying, hey, what services should we let eDirectory users log into? So if you were not having your users log into Linux at all, you would just take this default. And this SFCB is a lot of the web services that allows users to log in. But I'm going to say, yeah, they can do. I'm going to just log in with all of them. If you ever changed your mind and you didn't select these, you could come back into this configuration screen and click on Linux user management configuration and come in here and check the box, and that just will add the files and configurations to allow eDirectory users to log into other like OES services. So now my eDirectory users, it's possible for them to log in. So that's kind of why you don't default this if you don't want them logging into your server or having even the ability. You can block them later, but don't want to get too deep into that. Storage management services is a nice service for being able to back up your files using a standard protocol. You can back up files and eDirectory and all that. So that's just something that gets put in, and I'm not going to do any configuration settings. So now we're watching the actual configuration go through. So now it's trying that time synchronization. And that's the one I thought, it might not be able to make it. Yeah, if this doesn't work, I'll go back and get internet access for this VM. And here we see, yep, my server did not respond for making the time accurate, so I will have to go and get a time server available to this VM. So it's still going through the configuration. And basically it's like the first time through, it's building its databases, doing some configuration. And I'm going to pause it while it goes through this. And it's still going through. I missed a little bit of the screen updates, but it basically went down the menu and then just flipped over to this. There's just a lot of stuff happening. This is probably one of the most complex configuration settings is right here. So we'll let this finish, and I'll go back and fix the time server, and I'll check to make sure that I can hit the internet. Okay, and it basically just gives you a little bit of a generic screen about OES and how you can access it via the web browser, which is how you pretty much control OES is mostly all through browser, so you can even manage the server itself through the browser and then most stuff's done through eDirectory and iManager. So I'm going to click Finish. Here I'm going to minimize Yast, and I'm going to open a terminal. Excuse me, and then no, still not getting internet. Okay, so I had to get the net working in my VirtualBox. So now I can ping Google DNS. So I do want to make a network setting and also set up NTP. And I will do that in Yast. So I think I can do time. So I want NTP. There we go. NTP configuration. So I need to go here. I guess I have to add them. And this would be pool.ntp.org. There we go. So now I have an internet server. That's fine. So at least it's got a time clock it's connecting to. So eDirectory is installed. So some of the basic tools. One is we need to do things from root. With a sudo we can run the commands, but I'm going to actually do a sudo-i because I want the console. There we go. Yeah, it has this, the NDS tools in the path. So command line is good for some of the debugging. So if one of the first things I do is, let's say we test time. Of course, it's only syncing with itself, so this is okay. But it gives you a little bit idea how it reports back. The other big one you can always do is the servers. Like, make sure that it knows all the servers. There's only one, so it's, of course, it sees itself. So that's good. So basically eDirectory is up, which is excellent. So I'll leave this terminal there, and we've completed the eDirectory install. In the next video I will install the cluster services on this box before we do any storage or anything else. So this is a basic OES box now with an eDirectory tree that it's connected to, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.